2. Construction began in 1973 and was completed in 1976. Now, the Canadian National Railroad needed a tower like that. It was simply designed to be a radio communication tower. It was never intended to be a tourist attraction of any kind. Back in the 70s, Quebec actually underwent its first major separatist movement. At the time, most of our banks were headquartered down in Montreal. Now, the banks panicked a little bit. They didn't want their headquarters to end up being in another country. So what they did is they packed up out of Montreal, they hightailed it out of there, came here to Toronto, and they built new headquarters. Now, these buildings in some cases were as much as 70 stories tall, meaning that CN was actually losing communication with its locomotives out on the line. So what they decided to do to combat this was to build the CN Tower. They got together, said, we'll build something 3 times taller than will ever be challenged to be built in the city ever again, and we'll never have that problem of losing communication with the trains. Now, it wasn't until 90 days before the beginning of construction that somebody had the bright idea to put the observation deck onto the tower. Now, that's that globe you see about 2/3 of the way up there. They do have restaurants up there. You can go and see as far away as Niagara Falls. There are a couple of ways you can get up there. In fact, they do have 6 high-speed elevators. They do travel at 23 kilometers an hour. They'll have you from the ground to that point 2/3 of the way up in about 52 seconds. Now, if that's not your thing, you can also take the 1,776 stairs all the way to the top there. Now, that's not entirely true anymore. You used to be able to take the stairs at your leisure. What ended up happening was a lot of people seriously overestimated their physical abilities. They would go in that bottom door not realizing there was a door at the bottom, 1,776 stairs, and 1 door at the top. There was no restrooms, no water fountains, no Starbucks halfway up. So most people would go in that bottom door, they would get about halfway to the top, they would have some type of panic attack, and they would call 911. Now, the firemen, they had no special way to go up there and get you either. They would go in that same door that you walked in, they would climb the same number of stairs you just climbed, they would pick you up and bring you all the way back down. Now, that did happen a few dozen times, believe it or not, until the city finally decided no more. That's really not fair to the fire department. We're not going to do that to them anymore. Today, it's only open twice a year for different charity events. Keeping an eye off the right side of the boat, you will notice the Toronto Star building. Arguably the most highly circulated newspaper in the country. It does sit at a very famous address, being 1 Yonge Street. Yonge Street having the world record for being the longest street in the entire world. It does start right here. It does snake all the way up through northern Ontario, all the way around Lake Superior, and does end up somewhere down in Wisconsin. Right next to that, we do have the Jack Layton Memorial Ferry Terminal. As I pointed out, you'll see the Untitled sitting in there right now. There is one other vessel that's sitting over there currently. That is called the Trillium. Now, that's that vessel over there all the way on the right with the large black smokestack on it. That's actually far and away the oldest of our Toronto Island ferries. It was commissioned back in 1906 as a steam-powered paddle wheel ferry. It was converted from steam power to diesel back in the 1960s. However, it does still operate on that propulsion system of paddle. It does take a little bit longer than our other ferries to get over to the island, but it also has about double the capacity of any of our other Toronto Island ferries. Meaning that if we do get quite a lineup over there, they will break up the Trillium and it clears the line very, very quickly. Coming up behind these trees in here, you're going to notice these 2 concrete buildings here. The one's kind of a backwards L shape, the other one's right here in front of us. Now, those were actually the first 2 condo buildings built on the harbor front back in 1978. Now, you might remember from the beginning of the tour, I did say that coal burning facility did not shut down until 1980. So this was a very smoky place to live. It took a very long time to sell out these units. It actually took 4.5 years to sell out all the units in these 2 buildings here. And when they did go on sale, you could buy one for as little as $30,000. Today, the cheapest condo in those buildings facing the water is on sale for $1.135 million. So if you would have had the foresight to buy a few of those back in the day, you'd be a multi-millionaire today. Last thing I'd like to point out is kind of surrounded by scaffolding right now. Just over my left shoulder here we have this large concrete ball. Now believe it or not, that is the winner of an art installation competition. I'm not sure what the other entries were, if this was the winner. However, it's what we have here today. Believe it or not, it still remains unfinished to this day. The artist was given the money by the city to complete it. He got as far as you see it being completed there and then took off to the U.S. with the remainder of the funds. So today it actually serves as Canada's largest non-functional sundial. The only time it is correct about the time, very sad time unfortunately, is that it does signal the end of our harbor tour together. So on behalf of the captain, myself, I'd like to thank you all for coming out today. If I could get everybody to please take a seat and remain seated until we have all the lines on the boat tied up, that'd be much appreciated. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Take care, guys.
Say bye. Say bye. Bye.